Here at the Running Channel, we are always on the lookout for the best gear and tech that can help us improve our running and even prevent injuries. So when we heard about these heelless running shoes, we just had to have a look and see what they're all about. So I'm Anna, and today on the Running Channel, I'm going to be putting these FBR heelless shoes to the test, see what they feel like, see what it's like running in shoes with no heels, and looking at the background of where on earth this idea came from. First off though, if you're new here, please do hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you get notified when we upload new videos all about running, which we do every week. Right, so the first question that I had when I saw these is who comes up with the idea to cut away the heel of a running shoe? Well, the person behind the idea of these FBR heelless shoes is a man called Frank Benato, and he was inspired by a book that he'd read called Running with the Kenyans that was written by Adaranan Finn, an author and journalist and friend of the Running Channel, who'd spent some time in Kenya to look at the ways that Kenyan runners run because they were getting injured less frequently. And so what was discovered by looking at the way that they run is that they were less likely to land on the heels of their feet. So with that in mind, Frank then took a pair of running shoes and quite literally took a pair of scissors and cut the heels off. So to cut a really long story short, that design was then taken to the geniuses at Sheffield Hallam University, who then created these shoes. And they were tested on a number of athletes to see whether they were less likely to get injured or not by wearing them, and it was found that they were less likely to get injured. And that's because the athletes that were wearing them were less likely to heel strike. So if you've got no heel on the back of your shoe, you can't land on it, so you can't heel strike. And the idea behind that is that runners who do land on their heels are more prone to getting injured because of the force that it puts through their legs. Now, it's important to note that the FBR heelless shoe isn't a new concept entirely, but it might just be the strangest thing that you have ever seen. Okay, so let's look at the specifics of these FBR heelless shoes. FBR, by the way, stands for Faster and Better Runners. So on their website, they say that these shoes are ideal for runners who can run 3-minute 30 kilometers up to 7-minute kilometers. So that's pretty much all abilities. And they say that they're not designed for sprinting in because they're a little bit too heavy for that. So at 310 grams, not one to be doing speed work in. And that weight is pretty heavy considering it's a shoe that has got a chunk missing out of it. Now, what's really interesting about these is that the FBR heelless shoes come with their own training plan. So like if you were transitioning from wearing shoes to trying barefoot running, it would take several weeks, months, or maybe even years for that to transition over fully. FBR say that you should spend about 8 to 12 weeks getting used to running in these shoes first of all, and that's because your gait will probably change a little bit and your running style will be forced to change, especially if you are traditionally a heel striker. So if you are tempted to pick up a pair of these, they cost €139 or £125. So that's all the specifics. I really want to know what they're like to run in, so I'm going to get them on and go out for a test run. So I'm just walking to where I'm going to start my run, and I actually feel a little bit self-conscious wearing these because if anyone comes past, I'm like, I wonder if they've noticed that my shoes don't have any heels. And the act of walking, I don't know if you can tell from like the way the camera's moving, but it's certainly a little bit bizarre. Your heel wants to go down and it can't because there's nothing there. So it's kind of a bit like a rocking motion backwards, which then sort of propels you back forward again. So yeah, interested to see how they are when running. This bit's a little bit uphill, so I would normally run on my midfoot or forefoot. So yeah, going uphill feels kind of normal. I don't really notice that there's no heel at this point. Okay, we've done the uphill bit, so now on the flat. And I am like a tippy toe runner anyway, so I don't really notice the lack of heel. But if I really try to heel strike, it feels really weird. You can definitely see how they force you onto your midfoot, and you just can't heel strike. In fact, even trying to is kind of making my calves feel a bit tight. So you can really tell that by landing on that ball of your foot, it's really pushing you forward, whereas when you heel strike, it slows you down a bit and puts that extra force through your joints. So that's the whole point of these shoes, is to try and stop that heel striking motion to prevent injuries. So I can see why you would need a training plan to get used to these, especially if you do heel strike a lot, because you're going to be using all different muscles in a different running gait because of the nature of the shoes. So I'm just finishing off my run and I've looped back, so I'm coming downhill now, and this definitely has a bit of a different feel to it. So I would say that I would probably tend to heel strike a bit more on the downhill, just to kind of put the brakes on. And I can definitely feel that these shoes are keeping me on my toes. I can feel that kind of pulling in my calf again. Overall thoughts on the shoes then, they definitely feel a bit heavy. So as we mentioned, they're 310 grams, and I definitely don't feel like I can get up any speed in these. But if you were to think about bikes with stabilizers, I would say that maybe these are stabilizers for heel striking runners. So perhaps wearing these to train in, following that training plan, if you really are sort of a heel striker, to adjust your gait for them being able to wear other pairs of shoes for faster stuff. I think that would probably work.
So it's important to note that we've not been paid to do a review of these shoes, and all of the thoughts featured are my own. So what do I think of the FBR Heelless running shoe? Well, it was certainly a different experience running in them. It felt very strange walking in them as well. So if you normally do sort of walk to the start of your run, for example, then that rocking motion is really bizarre, not having your heel intact. I am pretty much a tiptoe forefront runner anyway, so it's not had too much of an impact really on the way that I personally run, but I can see how if you are a heel striker, it absolutely stops you from landing on your heels. And hey, if they genuinely reduce the amount of people getting injured, then that's never a bad thing. Really importantly to note that FBR have, since we got these shoes to test, updated their website to say that they are bringing out a brand new version of this shoe in September. So I think current stocks at the moment of these ones are pretty low while they get rid of them to then bring in the new wave. So if it is something that you're interested in and you can't get your hands on them right now, then that's why. And we look forward to seeing Mark 2 of these shoes coming out in September. What do you think of these heelless running shoes? Would you give them a go? Do you think that they look interesting? Let us know what you thought of this review in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on the Running Channel.